Hey everyone, it's Alex, and I am here with my video for the 38th Razzie Awards nominations. Now, originally I was going to be making a video about my thoughts on the winners for the Golden Globe Awards, Critics' Choice Awards, Screen Actors Guild Awards, and BAFTA Awards, and I was going to make separate videos for them like I did last year, but unfortunately some circumstances have changed. I was going to be making those videos earlier this week, but unfortunately I got sick with a really bad cold, and I just could barely do anything during that time. I had just enough energy to perform basic chores, but nowhere near enough energy to film, edit, and upload a video. So now I'm going to have to move some things around to readjust things. So I'm going to be making my Razzie video first, and then my Oscar nominations video second, since those are a week away now. And then I'm going to be doing a huge long video where I talk about the Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, Screen Actors Guild, and BAFTA Award winners all in one video, kind of like what I did 2 years ago. 2 years ago, though, that was mainly done due to procrastination on my part, but here it's being done just for time purposes. So if you know anything about awards, you'll know that the Razzie Awards are the only award show dedicated to honoring, or should I say dishonoring, the worst movies year after year. Now, unfortunately, the Razzie Awards are not televised, and that's kind of the whole point of the show. The point is to be as opposite of the Oscars as possible. Whereas the Oscars honor the best films of the year and have a lavish TV ceremony, the Razzies honor the worst films of the year and usually have a very low-key, informal ceremony. They'll put clips up on their YouTube channel, and sometimes, but very, very rarely, some people will show up to accept their awards, but that almost always never ever happens. So the Razzies pretty much have a lot of the same type of awards as all the other award shows, but the opposite. So they have Worst Actor, Worst Actress, Worst Director, Worst Screenplay, and then they also have unique categories like Worst Screen Combo and Worst Remake or Sequel. So what I'm going to do, of course, is go through all the nominations, and then once I am done with that, give you my thoughts on each individual category. So let's not waste any more time and dive right into the nominations for the 38th Razzie Awards. Worst Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel: Baywatch, Boo to a Medea Halloween, 50 Shades Darker, The Mummy, Transformers: The Last Night. Worst Screenplay: Damian Shannon, Mark Swift, Jay Sherrick, David Ron, Thomas Lennon, and Robert Ben Garant, Baywatch. Tony Leondis, Eric Siegel, and Mike White, The Emoji Movie. Niall Leonard, 50 Shades Darker. David Koepp, Christopher McQuarrie, Dylan Kussman, John Spates, Alex Kurtzman, and Jenny Lumet, The Mummy. Art Markham, Matt Holloway, Ken Nolan, and Akiva Goldsman, Transformers: The Last Night. Worst Screen Combo: Tyler Perry and Either the Ratty Old Dress or Worn Out Wig, Boo to a Medea Halloween. Any two obnoxious emojis, The Emoji Movie. Any combination of two characters, two sex toys, or two sexual positions, 50 Shades Darker. Johnny Depp and his worn-out drunk routine, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Any combination of two humans, two robots, or two explosions, Transformers: The Last Night. Worst Supporting Actor. Worst Supporting Actor: Javier Bardem, Mother and Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Russell Crowe, The Mummy. Josh Duhamel, Transformers: The Last Night. Mel Gibson, Daddy's Home 2. Anthony Hopkins, Collide and Transformers: The Last Night. Worst Supporting Actress: Kim Basinger, 50 Shades Darker. Sophia Boutella, The Mummy. Laura Haddock, Transformers: The Last Night. Goldie Hawn, Snatched. Susan Sarandon, A Bad Mom's Christmas. Worst Actor: Tom Cruise, The Mummy. Johnny Depp, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Jamie Dornan, 50 Shades Darker, Zac Efron, Baywatch, Mark Wahlberg, Daddy's Home 2 and Transformers: The Last Night. Worst Actress, Katherine Heigl, Unforgettable, Dakota Johnson, 50 Shades Darker, Jennifer Lawrence, Mother, Tyler Perry, Boo 2 A Medea Halloween, Emma Watson, The Circle. Worst Director, Tony Leondis, The Emoji Movie, James Foley, 50 Shades Darker, Darren Aronofsky, Mother, Alex Kurtzman, The Mummy, Michael Bay, Transformers: The Last Night. And now the final category, Worst Picture. Unlike the Oscars, the Razzies only have 5 nominees. Last year they had 6, but this year they've gone back to 5. And unlike the Oscars, the Razzies don't list the names of the producers for the Worst Picture nominees, so I had to go look them up on IMDb. But if the Oscars name the producers of the Best Picture nominees, then I feel I should do the same thing with the Razzies nominees for Worst Picture. And here we go. The 5 films nominated for Worst Picture of 2017 are Baywatch, Michael Burke, Gregory J. Bonan, Beau Flynn, Ivan Reitman, and Douglas Schwartz, producers. The Emoji Movie, Michelle Raimo Kuyate, producer. 50 Shades Darker, Dana Brunetti, Michael DeLuca, E.L. James, and Marcus Visidi, producers. The Mummy, Sarah Bradshaw, Sean Daniel, Genevieve Hoffmeyer, Alex Kurtzman, and Chris Morgan, producers. Transformers: The Last Night, Ian Bryce, Tom DeSanto, Lorenzo de Bonaventura, and Don Murphy, producers. Alright, so, what do I think of the Razzie nominations? As for Worst Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel, I've only seen Baywatch and The Mummy, and they're very well deserved of their nominations here. I haven't seen the other 3 films, mainly because I didn't want to. I guess I shouldn't really be surprised to see them nominated here, so I'm not really going to say anything more about that. So for Worst Screenplay, Baywatch, yep, that was a pretty bad screenplay. The Emoji Movie, awful screenplay. One of the worst screenplays I have ever heard in my life. And definitely the worst screenplay ever for an animated movie. If you don't know already, I consider the Emoji Movie to be the worst animated movie I have ever seen. And I know there might be some animated movies out there that may be considered worse by some, such as Food Fight or Norm of the North, but I have never seen those animated movies and I don't think I ever will see them. 50 Shades Darker, even though I haven't seen it, I shouldn't be surprised it's on here because from everything I've heard about the books and the movies, the dialogue is just absolutely awful and like no one, not even the most talented actors, can possibly redeem it. The Mummy, yeah, some pretty bad writing, but I've definitely seen a lot worse. And Transformers: The Last Night, even though I haven't seen it, I'm not surprised. But, you know, there are a lot of films missing from here. In fact, in almost all these categories, certain films are missing from the nominations, either because they were considered and not looked over, or the Razzies, for some reason, didn't even bother putting them as a pre-nomination. I didn't make the pre-nominations video this year because sometimes the Razzies publicly releases the pre-nomination results and sometimes they don't, and this year they didn't. But there were a lot of bad screenplays that were not nominated, like Fist Fight, Rough Night, Snatched, King Arthur Legend of the Sword, just Friend Request. All of those screenplays were awful. They added no character development. A lot of them threw in raunchy jokes just for the sake of being raunchy and disgusting and not adding any actual humor or development to the plot. They were just screenplays that were just throwing things at the wall and seeing what stuck and what didn't. And what stuck, they were like, oh, there's our movie, let's make it that way. For Worst Screen Combo, the only one of these I've seen is the Emoji Movie, and that is an excellent nomination for that film because every single character in the Emoji Movie was god awful. You had Gene the Met emoji, who doesn't want to be a Met emoji, and he's not very likable, and he's also just a very bland character. Then you have the high five emoji, who is so annoying, he makes Jar Jar Binks look like Albert Einstein. You have the villain, the smiler emoji, who's so overly sweet that she becomes annoying in 15 seconds. She's just always smiling like this and talking in a very sweet voice that you just can't stand because of how fakely sweet it is. Kind of reminds me a lot of Kellyanne Conway, because I can't stand how fakely sweet and annoying her voice is. And then, of course, the jailbreak emoji. She's just nothing but a ripoff of Wild Style from the Lego movie. Then you have Alex, the 14-year-old human protagonist, who's one of the most underdeveloped, bland characters in an animated movie ever. He has a crush on a girl and doesn't know what kind of emoji to send to her on her phone. What kind of movie has a story like that? And I'm sure all these other nominations are probably well-deserved for these films, but there are several key omissions. For instance, where is the entire cast of Fist Fight? That movie is god-awful, my worst film of 2017. Every single character in that movie, whether it's Charlie Day, Ice Cube, Tracy Morgan, Christina Hendricks, Jillian Bell, or even all the minor characters whose actors I can't remember who they're played by. Also, there's Kumail Nanjiani. All of those characters are awful. They're despicable people. They're disgusting. They're immoral. They just add no positive, redeeming value to society, not only in the world of this film, but in our world as well. Because seriously, what kind of people who work in a school act like this in real life? Now, of course, people will say, oh, calm down, it's just a comedy. Comedies aren't real. They're not meant to be serious. The storylines don't have to be realistic. No, they don't, but they at least have to be plausible. And nothing in Fist Fight is plausible at all. And I have not met a single person who's been able to defend this film successfully. I've had people try and say, oh, I like this film, it made me laugh. And I would ask them questions, okay, then how is this, and this okay in the movie? And they're just like, it just made me laugh, that's all I'm looking for. That's not a good enough excuse to like this movie. Another combo missing here, the entire cast of Rough Night. Again, another film with despicable, immoral, unlikable characters. All 5 of the main ladies in this movie, Scarlett Johansson, Jillian Bell, Zoe Kravitz, Alana Glazer, Kate McKinnon, all of them are awful, despicable people. Some are more despicable than others, like I wouldn't say Scarlett Johansson and Zoe Kravitz are as despicable as Kate McKinnon, Jillian Bell, and Alana Glazer, but none of these ladies have anything redeeming in this film going for them. You know, every time they want to try and get out of the bad situation they're in, they just go ahead and make it 50 times worse because they don't think things through. And not to mention Paul Downs, who plays Scarlett Johansson's fiancé. He's extremely underdeveloped and wasted as a character, and they give him one of the most stupid subplots I have ever seen of him driving all the way down to Miami non-stop, drinking Red Bull and wearing adult diapers so he doesn't have to make a bathroom stop. What the hell is this? Why do they think this was funny? I don't get it. And then, of course, the minor characters, such as the swingers, played by Ty Burrell and Demi Moore. Just not a single likable person in this film. I could go on and on, but if I did, we'd be here forever. Also, where are Amy Schumer and Goldie Hawn from Snatched? One of the worst mother-daughter duos in a movie ever. There could have been so much potential, but it just crashed and burned badly. Then you also have Morgan Freeman, Tommy Lee Jones, and Renee Russo from Just Getting Started. Now, I can understand if you don't even remember that movie's existence because it just came and went like that because it wasn't even screened for critics and it bombed at the box office. But oh my god, I have never seen a more ridiculous love triangle in my life because Morgan Freeman and Tommy Lee Jones are both in love with Renee Russo in this movie, and they fight over her like 14-year-old boys on a Disney Channel show. They literally even say stupid lines like, "I'm going to make her mine." That's the kind of stuff they say on a Disney Channel show, and a really bad one at that. What the hell were they thinking? Did they somehow think old men saying stuff like that would make it funny? No! And never once in the movie do Morgan Freeman or Tommy Lee Jones give Rene Russo a good reason why she should be romantically involved with one of them. And then also, this is another animated combo, the three camels from The Star, voiced by Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, and Tracy Morgan. Oh! These camels were so annoying, and they were literally arguing over whether they were going to a birthday party or a baby shower. Yes, that is what they argued about. And these are the three camels of the three wise men going to visit the baby Jesus. What were they thinking? Did they really think kids would find that funny by throwing in petty little arguments? No, they're just annoying. There's lots of other combinations, but those are the ones that are the most egregious snubs to me, and I need to move on because if I stay here any longer, I'm just going to get more and more angry. But I know my anger is going to return in just a few seconds with worst supporting actor. And admittedly, a lot of these are from films that I did not bother seeing. I did not bother seeing Daddy's Home 2 because I didn't see the first one, because I thought it looked stupid, and when I saw the trailer for the second one, I thought, wow, that looks even more stupid, and it looks like I was right from the critical reaction. Russell Crowe, he was not that good in The Mummy, but I've seen a lot worse. And Javier Bardem, I did not see him in Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, but I actually liked him in Mother. Now, I know Mother is a very controversial film, and that's an understatement, because I know people personally who think the film is a masterpiece, and I know some other people who think it's pure garbage and one of the worst films they've ever seen in their life. So obviously some people will be very happy to see Javier Bardem nominated here. And although in this case I don't know if the Razzies nominated him for Mother because the voters hated the film, or if they're just throwing him a nomination because of the film's F rating from CinemaScore. Because the Razzies sometimes like to nominate people simply because they're that person. Like last year they gave Nicolas Cage a nomination for Snowden, even though the movie didn't really get that horrible reviews. They weren't amazing reviews, but they weren't like Razzie level reviews either. You know? And the word is in that film that Nicolas Cage was actually doing a good job and not reverting to his Nicolas Cage isms that he's infamous for. I'm sure most of these performances are pretty bad. Like, I've heard nothing but awful things about Anthony Hopkins in particular in Transformers: The Last Knight. Everyone has said it's an absolute disgrace and an embarrassment for him given his illustrious career, and it's like his all-time worst performance ever. And judging from what I've heard, I will believe that, because I thought when I heard of his casting in the movie, I was like, oh no, Anthony Hopkins, no. How much money do they have to offer you to be in this? Because money is the only thing that an actor of Anthony Hopkins' caliber would be lured by to star in a Transformers film. Now, in terms of actors that were snubbed, oh boy, let's get started. First of all, where is Tracy Morgan for Fist Fight? You know, Tracy Morgan is a great guy. He's really funny, you know. And then, of course, he got into that horrific car accident which almost killed him, and it's a miracle he survived and made a full recovery. And I can understand if after going through a horrific experience like that, you want your first major project to be a comedy. But really, Tracy Morgan? Seriously? How the hell did a comedian like you actually think this was funny? Or did you just get lured with a big fat paycheck? I seriously don't get it. This is a disgrace on your career, and you better redeem yourself from this. And then also, if you thought Russell Crowe was bad in The Mummy, oh, that is nothing compared to Jake Johnson. Seriously, why wasn't Jake Johnson nominated here? Because his character was so annoying. He's so annoying you literally wanted his character to die. And spoiler alert, his character does die, and you're like, yes, thank God. But is that the end of him? No, he still appears, and he's still just as annoying as ever. And also, where was Ike Barinholtz from Snatched? Your stereotypical annoying mama's boy who makes his living by giving piano lessons to neighborhood kids, and then he calls the FBI to find out where his mother and sister are because, they've been kidnapped, and he keeps harassing the FBI agent, and they keep hanging up on him, and rightfully so, but then he somehow gets through to them, and he gets to become the hero? Screw that! What kind of person would be allowed to do something like this and get away with it? Harassing a government official is a crime, and in real life, Ike Barinholtz's character would have gone to prison. There's nothing funny about that. I really hate it in comedies, especially when unlikable, obnoxious characters do things that are technically illegal, like harassing a government agent on the phone, and yet they still get to be the hero. That is just a slap in the face, and it is an insult to my intelligence and to actual heroic people in this country and around the world. And then you also have Jason Mantzoukas for The House. Now, you may remember last year how enraged I was when Jason Mantzoukas was not even considered eligible for a Worst Supporting Actor nomination for Dirty Grandpa. Now, while he's not as bad as he was in Dirty Grandpa in The House, he's still just this really annoying, unlikable idiot. And yet, we're supposed to think he's funny, and his ex-wife has rightfully dumped him, and yet she still falls in love with him again. Who the hell falls in love with someone who sets up an illegal casino in their house and attracts attention from the mob? Who? No real woman would ever fall in love with somebody like that. Ever. And then finally, this performance, not as bad as the others, but still a disappointment considering his impressive resume, Jude Law for King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. He probably was only in that movie just because out of loyalty to Guy Ritchie, and I guess for the money. And maybe thought, hey, King Arthur movie, I make some money off of it, work with Guy Ritchie, sign me up. Moving on to Worst Supporting Actress. Goldie Hawn, she was one of the few good things about Snatched, but I won't argue with her being nominated here because she hadn't made a movie for 15 years, and this was the movie that made her come out of retirement. I don't get it. Was she lured by the paycheck? The chance to go out film the movie on location? To work with Amy Schumer? I don't know what the reason was, but whatever it wasn't enough to save the movie. I can't say anything about Kim Basinger, Laura Haddock, or Susan Sarandon, but I've heard they were all really bad. Sofia Boutella, she was actually good in The Mummy. She was actually the best thing about the movie. I'm guessing they nominated her here because she's the titular mummy, but her performance was Oscar-worthy compared to Annabelle Wallis. Now, Annabelle Wallis, she should have been nominated here because she goes from being a relatively competent scientist to basically being your average stereotypical whiny damsel in distress who needs Tom Cruise to rescue her. And of course, she's 20 years younger than Tom Cruise because in almost every Tom Cruise movie these days, his leading lady has to be at least 20 years younger than him. But even Annabelle Wallis in The Mummy is Oscar-worthy compared to the biggest snub of this entire ceremony, and that is Jillian Bell for both Fist Fight and Rough Night. Jillian Bell in those two movies plays two of the most unlikable, immoral, offensive women I have ever seen in a film. In Fist Fight, she plays a counselor who comes to school high every day on meth. Yeah, that's real responsible right there. And not only that, she brags about wanting to have sex with her male students. What kind of person would brag about something like that? That is disgusting. That is immoral. That is illegal. But because it's a comedy, we're supposed to think it's funny. But it's not. People get in trouble all the time for doing stuff like this. These type of people do not belong anywhere near a school. She is an insult to all counselors and teachers everywhere. Now, her character in Rough Night may not be as immoral in terms of wanting to do something illegal like that. Her character in Rough Night is still one of those awful type of women who are just very clingy and insecure and possessive and jealous and shrewy, where if their best friend has even one other best friend other than them, they just become really obnoxious and annoying and clingy and possessive to the point where no one wants to be around them. And of course, she's the person who gets the whole mess started by killing the stripper in the first place by literally jumping onto him and knocking him back against the fireplace, where he cracks his head open and bleeds to death. Again, how is this supposed to be funny or relatable? And yet some people thought Rough Night was like a feminist empowerment comedy. This is not feminism. This is an insult to feminism. It's one of the worst portrayals of women I have ever seen in a movie. Now, I know the Razzies don't usually nominate voiceover performances, but if there was a voiceover performance that deserved a nomination for Worst Supporting Actress, it would easily be Maya Rudolph in the Emoji Movie. Like I said before, her character, the smiler emoji, is so passive-aggressively annoying. She's just so overly sweet and smiley, you know, kind of like Kellyanne Conway from Donald Trump's administration, that she's so annoying you just want to plug your ears within 15 seconds. And she's so annoying and her plans are so stupid that she is literally the worst animated film villain of all time. And no, I'm not exaggerating when I say that. And then you also have Kelly Rohrbach from Baywatch, who's just there to be hot and pretty, and she gives no depth to her character whatsoever. Then you also have Liesl Allers from Friend Request. I can kind of give the Razzies a pass for that because I doubt many people have even heard of Friend Request. But Liesl Allers' character was just your average mentally ill villain who has almost no backstory explored, and when it is explored, it's not given enough depth to make us realize why she behaved the way she did. And then Renee Russo for Just Getting Started. Completely wasted, just doing it for the paycheck. And yeah. And then also Glenn Close in Father Figures. Again, wasted, just doing it for the paycheck. And yeah. Worst actor, Tom Cruise. He was not that great, but he wasn't completely god-awful. Johnny Depp, haven't seen the movie, but I've heard he's pretty much just on autopilot, although I do know some people who feel that Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales is underrated, and they say it's the best film since Curse of the Black Pearl, but most people I know feel he's just phoning it in at this point. Jamie Dornan, no surprise to see him there. Mark Wahlberg, no surprise. Zac Efron, he wasn't that great in Baywatch, but I honestly thought Dwayne Johnson would have been nominated too, mainly, especially after his whole, oh, screw the critics, we made this for the fans thing that he said on Twitter when the movie bombed at the box office. So, again, a lot of snubs here. For instance, where are Ice Cube and Charlie Day from Fist Fight? Their teachers are two of the absolute worst teachers I have ever seen, ever. And their characters are nothing but offensive racial stereotypes, with Ice Cube as the angry black teacher, Charlie Day as the wimpy white teacher. Nothing they do in this movie is funny. Nothing. Nothing at all. And these two teachers both deserve to be fired and never, ever be allowed to teach in a school again. And then also, where is Will Ferrell from The House? His character in that movie is so dumb and so immature and so annoying that The House has officially surpassed Step Brothers as my worst Will Ferrell film. And then also there's Gerard Butler from Geostorm. Gerard Butler is one of my least favorite actors of all time. I've rarely ever seen him give a good performance. Even in films of his that other people like, I don't like him in. Like 300, a lot of people think he's great in that movie. I think he's hammy as hell. And in Geostorm, he gives another awful performance. It's not as bad as some of his other ones, but he's trying to play this scientist, and Gerard Butler as a scientist, that's pretty laughable. But Gerard Butler as an American scientist, yeah, and his American accent. And then also there's Matt Damon from The Great Wall. I love Matt Damon, but in this movie, what the hell? Especially with his accent. What kind of accent was that? Was it Scottish? Because his character never says where he's from. He's obviously from somewhere in Europe, going on a mission to China, but we never find out where in Europe he's from. Based on the accent he's using, I'm guessing somewhere in Scotland. But if so, that's one of the worst Scottish accents I've ever heard. It was quite an insulting Scottish accent, too. Alright, worst actress, Katherine Heigl. Very glad to see her in here for Unforgettable. She was awful, just phoning it in for the paycheck, and her character was just very stereotypical and cliched and predictable. Dakota Johnson, of course, she'd be in here for 50 Shades Darker, and because both she and Jamie Dornan won Razzies for 50 Shades of Grey. Jennifer Lawrence in Mother. I know a lot of people will be very happy to see her be nominated, and some people are going to be rooting for her to actually win. But as someone myself who liked Mother, liked it but not loved it, I definitely don't think she belongs here at all, because she at least kept me invested in the movie. I was curious as to what the fate of her character would be. Tyler Perry, no surprise to see him here. If you're not aware of the history of the Razzies, if the actor or actress plays a character that is the opposite of their real-life gender, then they're nominated based on the gender of their character, and since Tyler Perry is always playing a woman in the Medea films, he gets nominated in the Worst Actress category. And then finally, Emma Watson in The Circle. Really? Now, The Circle was a disappointing movie, don't get me wrong. But was it Emma Watson's fault? No, not at all. In fact, the acting all around was the best thing about the movie, because every actor in the movie, Emma Watson, Tom Hanks, John Boyega, L.R. Coltrane, the late great Bill Paxton, rest in peace, and also the late great Glenn Headley, rest in peace. None of them gave a bad performance at all. In fact, Emma Watson easily saved this movie from becoming a much more brutal disaster than it was. I mean, there are many other worst actresses that could have been nominated in place of Emma Watson or Jennifer Lawrence. Like, what about Amy Schumer from Snatched? Now, I'm not as familiar with Amy Schumer's comedy as other people. I never watched her sketch show Inside Amy Schumer. I've never watched her stand-up specials. But I did see her in the movie Trainwreck, and that movie was actually quite funny, and I wasn't looking forward to that movie because the trailers didn't impress me, but it was a pleasant surprise. And then for Snatched, what the hell happened? I mean, she's really, really annoying. She's forcing her mother to go on vacation with her, even though her mother clearly doesn't want to, and she's making endless jokes about her private parts. It's not funny when male comedians do it, so therefore it's not funny when female comedians do it either. And her character is just really, really, like, annoying, like one of those, like, annoying little flies that always buzz around your ear and you just want her to go away. And she just won't stop talking. Oh my gosh, she talks so much you just want her to be quiet for just at least 15 seconds. And also, where was Amy Poehler for The House? Amy Poehler is one of my favorite comedic actresses, but what the hell happened here? She was not funny at all in this movie. She, like Will Ferrell, she was extremely annoying, dumb, immature, and irresponsible. Just, what the hell, Amy Poehler? you need to improve upon this. And some people may disagree with me on this, but this actress has not had that great of a career in my opinion, and that's Cara Delevingne for Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. That movie was mediocre, especially with her performance. She did give a good performance a couple years ago in Paper Towns, but other than that, I haven't been impressed with her. She was awful in Suicide Squad. She was a little bit better here, but not that much. And Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, that movie had a lot of problems, and she was one of the biggest ones. And then also, Scarlett Johansson for Rough Night. Ideally, I would like to have had all 5 of the ladies nominated here for Rough Night, given that, you know, it's about all 5 of them. Yeah, it would have been nice to see that happen, especially when they did nominate all 4 ladies from Sex and the City 2 back in 2010. Yeah, all 5 ladies for Rough Night I would have liked to have seen them here if they weren't going to nominate any of them individually, like in the Worst Supporting Actress category for Jillian Bell and also Kate McKinnon. I can't believe I forgot to mention her. Kate McKinnon, she should have also gotten a consideration for Worst Supporting Actress because her Australian accent was so offensive. She was literally saying things like, "No, it's no joke." What kind of an Australian accent is that? And I know some Australians personally who said they were deeply offended by her in that movie. Worst Director. Very glad to see Tony Leondis in here for the Emoji Movie and Alex Kurtzman for The Mummy. Not surprised to see James Foley for 50 Shades Darker or Michael Bay for Transformers The Last Night. And while I know some people will be cheering very loudly on Darren Aronofsky's nomination for Mother, I personally think there are many other directors that did a way worse job and could have been nominated there, such as Richie Keene for Fist Fight, Lucia Aniello for Rough Night, Guy Ritchie for King Arthur Legend of the Sword, Ron Shelton for Just Getting Started, the director of Friend Request, I forget what his name is, Andrew J. Cohen for The House, Jonathan Levine for Snatch, Denise Denovi for Unforgettable. Again, all of those directors, way, way worse than Darren Aronofsky. And then finally for Worst Picture, Baywatch, good. The Emoji Movie, yes. 50 Shades Darker, no surprise. The Mummy, understandable since it did kill the Dark Universe franchise on arrival. And Transformers The Last Night, of course. But then again, this is where the Razzies need to follow the Oscars lead and allow more films to be nominated, you know. Either go all the way up to 10 or do the 5 to 10 scale that the Oscars have. Because you're missing Fist Fight, Rough Night, Snatched, Unforgettable, King Arthur Legend of the Sword, The House, Friend Request, Just Getting Started, and many, many other worst films that many would say are even worse than the nominees here. It's one of the frustrating things about the Razzies is how they always like to go for the easiest films to target. And while a lot of those films are deserving of those nominations, the Razzies often don't like to branch out and go for more smaller films or other mainstream films that got bad reviews and target those too, because it's not just big franchises and big blockbusters that deserve Razzie attention. The point of the Razzies is to shame all bad movies, no matter how big or small they are. And while there are some good nominations here, the Razzies really messed up a lot this year by failing to include some of the films that just infuriated people to no end. I mean, and I'm not the only one who hates a lot of these movies that the Razzies ignored. You know, go look online. You'll find a lot of hate for films like Fist Fight or Rough Night or King Arthur Legend of the Sword or Friend Request or The House or Unforgettable or any of the other movies that I've mentioned throughout this video. So yeah, some good nominations overall, but on the whole I am disappointed with the Razzies this year. And I'm not really going to go into any more detail because I think I've ranted on long enough, and given that I've just gotten over a cold, and then actually I'm still not fully over it, I can feel my voice starting to get a little hoarse, so I better not yell anymore. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of the Razzie nominations, and also what you think the Razzies snubbed. And the Razzies will take place this year on Saturday, March 3rd, because they always take place the day before the Oscars. And then once the Oscars and Razzies are over, I'll be making separate videos about the winners for both of those shows. So stay tuned for all my future videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.